First time for everything then. Hello and welcome. I'm here with Tim Gray today, which I'm delighted to welcome Tim to our In Conversation with. Tim and I have had some conversations online, so it's been great just to meet Tim quickly before we came on live. And Tim, just, it's the first time we've met face to face, so, please just introduce yourself.
Okay. Hi, Tracy. You see, so to prove it's the first time we met, is it Tracy or Tracey-Jane? It's Tracey-Jane.
It's Tracey-Jane or TJ, whichever you prefer.
Yeah. And we met through a Facebook group with Nick Haynes and the Vitality Test. Yeah. So hi, everybody. I'm Tim. I'm based in Nottingham, UK. I help people to get their messages across through their website and their writing. So starting from a base of sort of looking at personal branding and what messages you want to give out about yourself, and looking at how to embody that in sort of what you say and how you say it and how you present it. So that's my hat for this.
How did you get into it, Tim? How have you started? How have you got into the? I suppose some people would call it copywriting. But I know you do an awful lot more than that. But how have you come into this communication?
Yeah, mostly I'm not actually doing copywriting. It's more sort of copy editing, and I do sort of text editing work. That's one of the things that I do. But it's partly through doing my own stuff really and developing that critical eye. I had a phase of doing freelance web design as well back in the day. I've kind of zipped around between things. And just sort of developing that sense of what works and what doesn't, and then getting interested in why, why do things affect people in certain ways, and how can you actually set up the systems to make that work then, and the structure of it, and how you look at how you present information.
Yeah,
I do a certain amount of self-publishing books and things as well, so it all feeds in together.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I imagine that once we get going on this conversation, Tim, we'll find that there's lots of connections with all sorts of different things, and people will just want to go, okay, I want to know more about this. But let's talk about what we said we would talk about, and sort of see where we go with it. So we were talking in some of our online conversations about how business owners often struggle with their websites because they have so much information, they have so much passion, that they just want to share it all. And one of the things that they struggle with is sharing it in the right way for their audience. And I know, some of the conversations we've had, it's like, well, yeah, that's great to be passionate about what you do, but is it right for your audience?
Yeah.
So how do you take somebody through that process, Tim?
Yeah, I think the first building block of that, the first building block of that is to actually start from the viewpoint that everybody's got 101 things to do, and your website, you want it to just work, and you want people to sort of come to it and get pick up the things that you want them to know, and hopefully take action if it's appropriate, book some work with you. But that's kind of like wanting it to work by magic.
Yeah.
And there's a whole load of psychology involved in there. So often I think for people, especially in the early days of business, they just sort of, it's a box to tick off. So they just kind of go, bleh, and get something up there. And then perhaps later on sort of come back to it and think, that's not working very well, or that's not reflecting me very well. Captions.
Yeah.
Not seen that before. So one of the things that I do, for instance, I work with a few people who want sort of what I call a website renovation. Excuse me. Which is to sort of say, they've had the site for a while, and it's kind of grown a bit organically. It's all a bit tangled up, and it doesn't reflect what they're doing. So I tend to start with, well, okay, let's look at what messages you actually want to give out through that. and that works on two levels, because one of the things is the thing that you think you want to tell people, like, I don't know, I do really good coaching that will help you. But there's also what I call background messages, which is about who you are and how you work, and that's things that people pick up without you actually explicitly telling them, which can come from all sorts of things. It can come from the colour scheme or the layout, or it can come from, when people look at your site, what do they expect the experience to be like? And what is the experience like? Is it hard work, to get to? If I come to your site, do I look at it and go, well, I was interested in that, but I can't be bothered to hack through the undergrowth?
Yes.
So there's all sorts of things there, but it kind of starts from establishing, well, what do you actually want to give out to people about who you are and what you can provide, and from that starting point, you can make things reflect that.
So the starting point, who you are and what you provide, and that needs to be almost like the main thing that people see when they first arrive on your website. Is that sort of the basics? Basic starting point.
And it works at a conscious and unconscious level as well, because people are going to pick up some impressions about you as well, which is what branding actually is about what impressions do people associate with you. So you may as well take conscious control of it. So some of that is those background messages that people pick up, in those first few seconds.
Yes.
Before when they actually either stay or they go, depending on whether they see that you've got something that they want, that they're interested in.
So some of this is not just the words, is it? It's so some of it is the words, and then some of it, like you say, is the colours, is the branding, and I suppose how we show off what we do.
Yeah, and it's those two sides, and obviously one of the things is the explicit messages as well. So, for instance, a very common mistake with websites is that on the first screenful that people see, there's very little clue as to what the site is about or what you do. And you need that to be pretty clear on first glance so that people at least know that they're in the right sort of place for what they're looking for. And that it's worth their while to carry on reading to find out more about, how you might be able to help them.
Yeah. So in terms of because when I'm working with business owners, a lot of the time when they're thinking about websites, they're talking about their key messages and their keywords, and they're trying to get their keywords into their their website, their homepage, their about page. How do we as business owners make sure that what the search engines are looking for in terms of helping us get our website found is congruent with what a human is wanting to actually see and learn about us, because they've heard about our website or they've come across us because of a search engine has come up. How do we match those two things?
In a sense, and I'm not an SEO expert, I have to say, but in a sense, modern SEO is, those two things are much more the same than they used to be. Yeah. So actually, if you include the right keywords and phrases in your page and in headings, for instance, then that actually is what sort of Google certainly wants to see. It wants to see those marks of relevance. But I think there's an issue about getting too hung up on SEO before you've got, get the human readable stuff right first. And hopefully you'll solve most of SEO by doing it that way anyway. And there's technical things you can put in, certainly in WordPress pages, to make sure that when things are shared, that you get a nice preview up. But if your site isn't attracting humans, then any visitor that you actually manage to bring to it, you're not giving the best chance of being able to connect with them. Yeah. So I think start by being able to connect with the people that you do get, and then then fine tune it. It can be a never-ending journey. you can put as much time into a website as you want, really. And, I suggest that you possibly have other things you might want to do instead, but there's always
it's interesting. I've worked quite a lot with people who have created their first website, and then they've gone, right, it's launched, that's it, move on to the next thing. When actually, once it's launched, that's almost when the hard work begins, because that's when all the SEO happens, and that's when you actually start learning how humans are using our websites and what we need to do to then almost like grow that, what our story is, and sharing that. So, how can we get it as right as possible before that launch? What are the steps that you suggest that people go through?
That's an interesting one. I mean, I think start by imagining that it only needs to be simple.
Okay. Yeah.
There's always a discussion about, would you actually need a website or not? Even although you can technically get by without one, I would say generally you do need to have one, because people come and check you out on the quiet, because talking to people is scary. So what a lot of people will do is is look at your site first before deciding whether to get in touch. So you need at least something there, but it only needs to be simple, certainly in the early stages. But you have to be able to sort of see it from the perspective of, a stranger who comes to it who doesn't already know anything about you. And that's kind of a skill, actually, that not everybody has got, that not everybody's used to doing. So it's really about having something, starting from the basics and making sure that what you do have is, is going to guide people through on the right sort of journey and let them find what they want to find. And there's, it's fairly standard for, if you're a solo business doing a sort of service-based thing, it's pretty standard as to what kind of things you want in there in terms of what pages to have and what to call them so people can find them. It's almost a cookie cutter thing for most people. So you just want to make sure you've got those there and that the content is filled in a way that gives people a good sense of why they want to work with you, or indeed why they wouldn't. It's a filtering mechanism as well. That people can say, okay, that's interesting, but this isn't the right sort of person for me. And then, at least you've saved yourself some time and you can focus on the ones that are a good fit.
Yes. So in terms of some standard pages for, like you say, that sort of basic service industry, what would you recommend, Tim?
Okay, well, obviously
homepage,
which is basically the welcome mat that sort of sets out the, and the job of that is to basically be, I always think, not too big in terms of content, but to give a sense of what's in the site and how they can get to it. You need an about page, and the job of that is to tell people about you, because your site in general is about sort of what's relevant to them, but at the same time we need to see people behind it. If you ever visit a site where there's no information about who the people are that are doing the thing, it's actually quite an odd feeling, I find.
Yeah.
And part of that is about, well, a lot of that is about trust. You think, I've not come across this before. Who's doing it? Let's find out who they are. And you don't need a lot of information to get that trust. But if you're doing something like coaching, for instance, obviously you're looking at potentially quite an intensive personal relationship there. So you want to start with getting a sense of, who you are as a site owner, and just a few little things about, what your other interests are and about how you came to be doing what you're doing and about your approach. So it kind of is about them as well, but it's also about saying, this is here I am as a well-rounded human being who's not weird and strange, and here's, and then here's some more about things you might latch onto that might make us interested in working together.
Yeah.
If you've got a blog section, if you do regular updates, obviously you've got that. You can call out specific pages for like contact me or testimonials and what have you, or you can scatter those in amongst other things, and then you tend to have at least one services page where you tell people about how to work together. And you want to keep it compact as well, so that when people look at your menu on your sites, then they don't get confused about where to go to. And then you can break out into sub-pages if you need to.
Well, I had an interesting conversation with a couple of business owners earlier in the week about, do I put my prices on my page? Because there was some element of, it wasn't about hiding their pricing, but it was more about, well, surely that will put people off. Surely I want to get people to contact me, and then we'll start talking money. What's your view on that, Tim?
Oh, crumbs. I'll possibly
refer you on the spot today, aren't I?
On sales, but I mean, it very much depends what you're doing. I think it can be very useful. It can be very useful to be able to see packages. So if, for instance, you are a coach and you operate a standard package of, we'll have 6 sessions together and some stuff in between and what have you, and here's the benefits that you come away with, and you can describe it as a package, then you would want to put a price on that because you're offering it as a standardized thing. But if it's a sort of how long is a piece of string thing, then you probably wouldn't. So for instance, I've got at the moment, and it may change on my site, I've got a fixed price create a website from scratch package. But I also got sort of website renovation and working to improve a site that somebody has already got. And there's no pricing on that, because as I say on the page, that's a process of talking to somebody, finding out what resource they've got and where they want to get to with it. And you have to have that conversation before you know what the piece of work is going to be. And then you can sort of come back with a quote on it. So, it really depends.
Yeah, no, that's that. Thank you. That's helpful. I know that was off topic. So in terms of sort of structuring, you've sort of talked about having sort of headings, menu headings, and making it easy for somebody to sort of walk through. But we all look at things in a different way. We all take information in a different way. We all communicate in a different way. How on earth can we as a business owner make sure our site is easy for people to look at, people find what they need?
I mean, that's about structuring information, which I could probably go on about for a long time. But again, that's something that's a skill and perspective that not everybody starts with, and you need to try and develop a bit. And for instance, even people who are used to writing, say, reports and perhaps they've worked in an organisation before. Writing for the web is kind of a different ball game, really. So it's very much about thinking about how the information naturally breaks down. And it's kind of a learning exercise for the reader. So you have to kind of think about, well, where do we start from? And how do we build it up? So don't start talking about a concept before you've introduced it, for instance. And within web pages, you've got tools you can use. You can break things into short sentences. You can break things into short paragraphs, and you can use headings to separate and parts of what you want to say. And headings are also really useful for SEO, so you can sort of put subsections of your idea in the headings, because a lot of people will look at a page and will start by just skimming it.
Yes.
So then if they can see headings that sort of latch into something they're particularly interested in, they might stop and read that section.
Yeah.
But what it's not about is having people open the page and having that wall of text syndrome, that's like big paragraphs that aren't broken up. because at that point, you know, web readers are often very skittish, and once they see it's hard work here, they'll go, I'll go and look somewhere else.
Yeah. Now, colour, Tim, and a lot of business owners are very fixed with the colours they want to use because, you know, they might have, you know, actually spent some money on getting a logo designed, and, you know, they've spent a lot of money on this, and then when they take this to somebody to start looking at a website, you know, the web people go, well, actually that colour doesn't look very good online. You know, it's great on your business card, but it doesn't look very good online, and it doesn't draw people in, or, you know, it looks cold, or, you know, whatever it is. So how do you do the colour thing,
Tim? How did it going?
I know.
I mean, there is a field. There's another thing you probably spotted that I'm fairly enthusiastic about. There's a field called colour psychology, which is not an exact science, but it is backed up by science to a certain extent, in that we tend to respond in certain ways to different colours, and different people respond differently, and people from different backgrounds or ages or different countries' cultures vary. But there does seem to be some commonality between those. So that means there's part of you know, part of those background messages that people pick up very quickly, because obviously reading text is quite a slow process. Oh, thank you. Yes, there's a post that I put up quite recently about that. So people take in that visual layout of your site and the colour scheme very, very quickly, and reading text is much slower. So that kind of frames what you've got. So, for instance, just in the very general sense, I mean, have you got, you know, does it look warm or does it look cold?
Yeah.
And that can extend to images as well. I mean, I worked with somebody who had their site redone by somebody who had used images that had been photographed with her in a really cold bluish colour cast, which was completely opposite to the sort of person that she is, and very warm and, you know, very friendly, and you know, doing coaching work with that sort of very, you know, that's a very warm approach. So things like that, you play into it as well. So, you know, you can have an awareness of that, but it's not just about picking the colours you like, which is what I end up saying to people a lot. You know, somebody might go, oh, I like purple, and you go, well, you might like purple, but for what you're doing here, that sends completely the wrong message. And I pick on that one because one of my past sites was purple, just because I was going, oh, I haven't done a purple site, let's make something that. After a while, I kind of realised that it wasn't like purple tends to connote. There's a thing about nobility and sort of exclusivity, but also a thing about imagination and dreams there. And what I was talking about was how to do clear information. It was kind of a precursor to what I'm doing now, and I was kind of going, well, okay, that doesn't work. For which you would tend to use things like turquoises and blues, which I've now got on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, blue, for instance, you'll see used an awful lot online because it tends to give a sense of trustworthiness and sort of being sort of calm and level-headed. So once you hear that, you can start looking at the websites of like banks, for instance, and organisations like that, and you can see that they're all using the blue colour scheme because they all want people to think that they're trustworthy, of course.
And I've got blue in mine, so you know that's I'm clearly trustworthy. So you know.
And the example that I overuse is that if you're doing a coaching practice, which is about sort of calmness or, you know, meditation or helping people to get control of their emotions, and you do a website that's all like bright red,
yeah,
you've got that sort of you know, it's not coherent, it's not cohesive, and people will pick up on that, and somewhere, probably in the subconscious, they'll be going, well, this doesn't fit, and it will be harder to establish trust on that basis.
Yeah. So the whole thing is about how does it all rub together, isn't it? It's not just brand, it's not just colours, it's not just how it sits on the page or the words that you're using, it's everything together. Is that right?
I mean, yes, it is that, and it is that in terms of what message people will take up from the site. Obviously, having said that, you may find, people's heads may be going, that's too much to take on at once. And the answer to that is, well, don't take it all on at once and do it in steps.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot to be gained by sort of starting with that awareness. So you can go, well, I'm going to focus on this bit here, but I know that it's part of an overall message that people are getting, so that may affect, how I do it. So if you're just filling in text in a blog post, you can go, oh, yes, I need to remember to break the text up and put headings in.
Yeah.
And if you're doing, the nice thing is if you're using a system like WordPress, which I work in, you can do the initial setup or get somebody to do it for you, and get that to sort of have the right elements of fonts and colours and all that kind of thing. And then you don't need to think about it anymore. All you need to think about is plugging in your content, because the system takes care of all that presentation for you. So then all you need to think about is, well, what sections will people be looking for? What do I need to provide to serve the audience here? And what's the journey going to be to get closer in towards working together?
Yeah. Is it helpful to sort of almost like write down a journey? You're talking about people journeying through a website. Is it helpful for business owners to think about the journey they want people to go through to make the booking or inquire, make an inquiry?
Well, it may be if if that helps you get clarity. In most cases, it's going to be, it's not going to be a complicated process. But it's just to think about. Perhaps another way to frame that is when people come to the site, what questions are they looking to answer?
Okay.
Which it could be to find out. It could be that they're sort of primed to buy, already primed to buy whatever you're doing, and then they've got a route where they're just looking to, does this person do that? What kind of person are they? Okay, let's go across and but they may be on a more exploratory thing, so they might be going, this person does. I worked with somebody recently who does herbal medicine, for instance, so they may have people going to the site to go, oh well, let's find out more about herbal medicine. They may already know something about that, or they may not. So there's some information pages there. And that was about giving tips on how to improve the structure of the thing. So people may go and explore that. Or you may be guiding people to join your community, your mailing list, which often is what you're sort of trying to do with the site, I think, rather than sort of drag people straight into spending the £600 or the whatever it is. If you've got a coaching package, for instance, that tends to be a fairly standard thing. So it depends what kind of thing you're doing, or it might be sort of £15 for some jewellery or something, In some cases where it's about working with you as a person, you may find people want to find a way clearly to a mailing list. And, so you can build that contact, that connection with them over time.
Yeah.
Later on they may come back and actually buy something.
Yeah.
Apologies, my throat is gradually going a little bit.
No, well, I think we're coming to the end of our time, Tim. So in terms of
working, that was my mistake.
in terms of sort of like the maybe the three things that you would get business owners to think about when they're trying to get their message across on their website. What you've mentioned about being simple, keeping it simple. we've talked about colours, which is obviously going to be, individual to that particular, business and person, because it will be both of those together, I imagine, that will then, decide on the colours. What are the three things that you say, let's do this, and we'll have that framework ready. We'll have that framework together.
Okay. I'm going to start with really simple ones that will send people away. So when people arrive at your front page, your home page, can they see straight away what you're about?
Yeah.
By taking, by taking, the heading or the subheading or the initial heading or, the first couple of lines of text and what have you. So can they get that fairly quickly? So don't. Actually, just to say there that fancy is, people talk about fancy websites and they mean different things by that. But what is not useful for most people is having lots of things whizzing about and lots of big images that get in the way of people actually understanding what's going on.
Yeah.
Or, or text that's difficult to read. So, have that nice and clear, and that's more important than having all the sort of whizzy stuff.
Yeah.
I suppose the second thing is make it look like something that's going to be a good reading experience, so that people don't sort of arrive at your site and think, oh my goodness, this is a wall of text, or it looks like something from the 1990s, or I think the trend is now for things to get more simple and elegant, and I think there's a lot to be said for that. And I suppose part of that would be the clear structure. And I suppose the other thing is to remember to show up as yourself. And people often struggle with that, especially introverts. It's like people start their homepage text like a conversation with the reader, which is great, but they never introduce themselves.
Yeah.
So after a while, you've got this disembodied voice syndrome going on. So it's like, hi. Hi, I'm Tim, I'm Tracey-Jane, I do this, and and the about page can give them more of that. So have a photo there and say, give your name, and make it actually feel like a person is having a conversation with them.
Yeah, and I think a lot of business owners often hide. I've been guilty of this in the past, where you're hiding behind your business, where actually you are your business, and if people don't get to know you, they're not going to come in to your business. So it's about showing up as yourself and using your language, I guess, as well, so that the customer or potential customer can understand how you work, and that's where your about page comes in, isn't it, I guess. And using the language that the customer will understand, whether they know anything about herbal medicine or whatever it is, before they come onto the site or not.
Yes, it's about finding out, what's the way for you to come across as you and give the audience what they need and what they're looking for. And fundamentally, if you can get those two things right, you've cracked it. So the site is there to be representative for you when you're not around or when they want to sort of check you out sneakily. So if you can get that sense of voice, and if you're used to that, if you're used to writing in that way, then you've got an advantage there. And if you're not, then you may need help as in other things. And even if it's just to get a friend who's got sort of suitable skill to give it a look over for you, and sort of say, give you feedback and go, that doesn't sound like you at all. What do you do?
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Why are you talking about yourself in the third person?
Yeah.
Why is there no picture of you but just your dog?
Yes. No, that's brilliant. So I'm just writing that down. Thank you so much, Tim. It's been really valuable just to talk through just a few different ideas. I think websites can sometimes be this big thing in business owners' heads. And like you say, it's almost like a tick box, that right, I've got to do this and then move on. Where actually it is often the shop front of that particular business. So it is important that your message gets across to your customers and potential customers. And depending on how you're using your site, it might be that you're storing information on there for people to use. So it might be, if you're wanting to share, different aspects of herbal medicine, for example, people need to be able to find it easily. Otherwise, they're not going to come back to your site. So, a website can be quite crucial to what you're doing.
Yeah, I think the trend is for that now. People kind of expect you to have something. And small but good is better than sort of big and difficult. So
yeah, no, that's helpful. That's helpful. So I know you're not an SEO expert, but we've come at it from a slightly different way. And if people are wanting to know a little bit more about sort of SEO, then there's another video available, another conversation that I had with Alison Rothwell, where we talked about meta tags and wonderful things like that. So that's already available in the community. So Tim, I've got your link is in the comments. So if people need some help with their structure, with their colours, which is a fascinating article that you've written, and what else can you help people with directly?
It's kind of the whole shebang in a sense. So it's like the sort of WordPress design, or helping to untangle sites, or working on the sort of copy and things, and your websites or documents and what have you.
Yeah.
So basically helping people to sort of look at that, that sort of personal branding thing, and then carrying it through into how they're presenting themselves and how they're writing about themselves. Indeed, what head stuff they need to get past in order to
yes.
do that, because we all have it.
We do, and it's interesting. We've had some conversations within the Business Cheerleading Club quite recently, about people's websites and about people's, words that they're using. We had one of our monthly expert workshops was about the words that we use. So it's been fascinating. We've had conversations about that, and what words often feel right for us, like you say, might not be what our audience is wanting to hear, or what they're looking for. So, getting that language right and getting that sense check with somebody else is
talking about yourself is really hard.
Yes.
So many people struggle with that.
Yes. So having a community, of people to talk to, wherever that is, whether it's, a friendship group or a business networking group, or, online or offline, it's having those people just to bounce those ideas off that's really helpful. So thank you so much for your time, Tim. I've really appreciated that.
You're welcome.
And people can contact you directly. And if people are watching this or listening to this afterwards, if you do have any questions, then please do get in contact, and we will do our best to answer them for you and help you on your website journey, making your message much clearer to your audience. So thank you very much, and see you soon.
Okay, cheers. Thanks, David.
Thank you. Bye-bye.